Hi guys, Miguel from Toddle here. So today we're gonna try to replicate one of the coolest and most famous animations ever. The one from Apple on a desktop, when you have that dock at the bottom of the screen with a bunch of applications. When you hover, they magnify, and if you move them around, like they grow and shrink based on the mouse position. We're gonna try to replicate that in Toddle today. First of all, like in a very easy way, and then try to add the extra layer of complexity on top of it to make it look more or less like the one that they have. So let's jump into it. So the final result is going to be something similar to this. We have the bar, and if you hover, the icons grow and shrink. You can see that if you hover a bit to the left or a bit to the right, like the one on the left or the one on the right grows proportionally to the mouse movement. So let's go to the file. I already have a boilerplate that I prepared here, something very simple. We have the main div. We have this bit of text that I'm going to use as a help to pass some values and to understand what's going on into the application. It's a good practice to do so. I do it a bunch of times, trying to understand how I'm interacting with stuff and what's happening. And I use these values to these bits of text to pass those properties and to see how it's behaving. And then we have a dock here at the bottom with a bunch of different squares that each one of them represents one application. These squares are being pulled by this variable here that has a bunch of icons. We're going to pass the icons for inside the square later. What else? I have a few variables that I create as well with some fixed sizes that I'm going to use throughout the application. And because sometimes I'm going to have to do a bit of calculation, it's better to do it this way, because then you know that you are using exactly the correct values in each spot. So first of all, let's start by creating the hover effect. So the idea is when I hover one of these rectangles, one of these applications, that one should get bigger. So right now, this div has 10 pixel padding all around, and then inside the div, there's the application itself. That's the one that we want to grow. And this one is just a square with a background color, and I'm passing through a variable here, 40 pixels to both height and width. So what I'm going to do is when I hover this event, so when the mouse enters this, actually I don't want it to do on this one, I want it to do on the parent, because you want to consider the padding as well. So on this one, when the mouse entered, I have to create a variable for that. I'm going to call it app over. And when the mouse, so when the mouse enter this icon, I want it to set the app over to the index of the item that is being over. And the other way around, when the mouse leaves that icon, I want it to remove from the app over. So I'm just going to pass null again. And we can use this text to test if everything is working fine. So let's select the text and let's pass it this app over. And let's go into test mode. So right now it's null. If I hover this one, should be 0. If I hover this one, should be 2, 4, 3, and all the other icons here. And if I go away, it disappears. It's working fine. So now what I'm going to do is, if the icon that is being over is the same as the value stored on that variable, I want it to change its size. So I'm going to go here. Now it's not going to be in the parent, because I want the padding to be always the same all around. What I want it to change is the size of this item here. So this one here, that is 40 pixels. What I actually want to do is I want to add an if here. and let's add a bit of logic, equals. So if the value stored here is the same as this item index, then I want it to have the max height. Otherwise, I want it to have the default one. So let's test it out, and yeah, this is growing because I've been playing around with this file. I already add a transition, it's a very simple transition to this element that transitions the width and the height, so that's why it's growing. Well, one thing that annoys me a bit that doesn't happen on the one from Apple is that when you hover, like the bar on the, like the container on the back shouldn't grow. It should grow outside of the container. To do that, what I did is create an extra div that is position absolute and takes the full width of this component here, and then and that is the one that is passing and being used as a background. I'm gonna actually I can make it, you see, is this one here. And one of the reasons that I split this in bits before, it's because now I can have a bit more control on this. What is happening right now, it's when I hover this, the app is growing, this icon is growing, but the container in the back is growing as well, because it's relative to this one that it's growing with the divs that live inside it. So with this separated, like, I know for sure that this bar is always going to have the same height, and that height is going to be, I can come here and pass it height, and it's always going to be, I'm going to add array. Actually, I can add like this, and it's always going to be, I'm going to add 3 things here. It's always going to be the padding in the bottom, the minimum size, and then the padding on top. And now I'm going to force the height to, instead of being 100%, to always be this value here. And now if I hover, it doesn't grow anymore. Cool, that first part is done. So now let's do the animation when you hover one of these, then the one on the left, on the right, they grow a bit as well. To do that, I'm gonna create a formula here that I'm gonna call it distance to over, and what it's going to do is going to take 2 parameters, the app over index and the index that we are overing. And although like this one you can pick it up from the variable that we are using already, I like to first set them as inputs here, because now I have control to pass values here and to test and to understand what's going on. So and then we can replace that at the end. So now let's make this one, and let's add a minus here, and let's say that the index that it's over minus the index of each element. This calculation, actually, that's why I like to have this here, because I can explain with values. So imagine that we are overing the index number 4, and my element is the index number 2. This one is going to be 2. So I want that the difference between these two, I want to have the absolute value of that. And the reason I'm saying the absolute value, it's because if this is the other way around, it's going to give us -2. I don't want a -2. I want always a positive number. And that's the value that we want for now. This app over here, we can actually take this one and pass it this one, that is the real one. And this one, we can pass the index. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this element here on top. I'm going to repeat it based on the number of apps that we have. And I'm going to put it horizontally, and I'm going to space it gently, like so. I even going to do something like this and add everything to the bottom so you can see them close to each other. Is it going to overlap? No. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass to this value that function that I just created. And I'm going to pass the index of each element. So now if I hover, it's giving me the distance. Like this one is 0. The one on the left, on the right is 1 element away from it. The next ones is 2 elements away, 3 elements away, 4 elements away, and so on, so on. And this is what we're going to use to calculate which items are going to be influenciated or not by this over movement. So now that we have that, what we can do is create a function, another formula, and let's call this one height change, for instance. Not sure what's the best name here, but let's try that one. And what I want is I'm going to create an index here so I can have an example. Actually, I don't need that for now. What I want is if this number that this formula is giving me, it's less than 3 and it's greater than 0, index, I want me to give it true, otherwise false. So index, and let's go. And now what I can do is actually I can duplicate this and on this one I can call this one. So let's try to understand what's going on here. This element, for instance, is saying that it's index 0, so it's false. The one on both on the left and both on the right, it's true, and all the other ones are false. What this means is that the true ones are the ones that I want to have a dynamic value between the maximum and the minimum, and all the other ones I want to either have the maximum or the minimum value. So now I can go here to this element and say that if the app over it's equals to the index, that's the maximum value, so it's 80. Else, if this function that I just created called height change, it's I'm going to pass it the index. If this is true, it's going to be something between 40 and the minimum and the maximum. Otherwise, it's going to be the minimum. So let's pass this one here. And here, what I'm going to do, because the minimum is 40 and the maximum is 80, there's 40 between them. So and this 40 between them, and because we have 2 steps between them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply actually I can make it like this, like divide right? I want the max minus the size and then it's going to give me the gap between them. I want to divide that by 2. So I have 2 blocks, one for the one that is right after and the one for the other one. And I want to multiply that by the distance to the over. And here I have to pass the index. And let's see if this works. So if I come here, yep, it's working. Actually, not exactly as we want, but I know what's the bug. So basically, if I go back here, here, here I'm if it's the one over, I'm passing the max value. Then if the index it's 1 or 2 away from the one over, what I'm doing is add the base value and add on top of that. I have to do the other way around, because the one with index 1 I want it to be higher than the one with index 2. So what I need to do is actually I'm gonna redo this whole logic again. I want it to be based on the max value minus, and to simplify, I'm just gonna do minus 20, and this should be multiplied by the distance to over. It's gonna be based on the index. And now if you go here, yeah, it's working. And now with this formula we can play with the values and tweak it to have more or less elements. Let's for instance say that let's make it distance to over, let's make it this one here. Let's say that instead of 3 we want 4, or we want 6. And this one here, for them not to grow that much, let's make 5 here as a test. You see that you flatten the curve and it gets a bit more. Well, from this point on to the final one, we just need to add we can add a span inside of this. Instead of this, let's pass the item. Let's center it on the page, and yeah, let's remove the background here. And actually I want to go back to 3 as it was, and I want to go back to 20. And now I want to make this span here, this size, I want it to be, actually I have to try to guess it like this, like 1.8. And I'm gonna have to pass dynamically here the size as well. So I'm passing the font size into RAMs. So actually I want to copy all the logic from the other one, this one, like this, and I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna name it font size. Wait. So if it's this one, I'm not sure what it's gonna be. I think like something like this. Otherwise, I'm just gonna play around with the values here very quickly. Otherwise, 1.8. wait. Or actually gonna make 2 here to be easy, and this is gonna be 0. It's gonna be multiplication of 0.5. What I'm doing here is like the difference between 3 and 2, it's 1, so I'm dividing by 2 and multiplying that by the distance to over. I think this might work. Let's see. Why is not work? Well, I need to apply that to the element. That's obvious. So yeah, let's see now. Yeah. Okay. The reason being, wait, not this one, this one. This one needs to be like this. Let's do it like this. And now we just need to figure out like the ratio between like those intermediate values. It's jumping a little bit because we don't have a transition for font size, but as soon as we add that, it should work more smoothly. And that's it for the most part. This one is a bit more advanced. Let me remove all of this one here. Let's go away. This one that I showed here, it's a bit more advanced. What I'm doing is like calculating the mouse position inside the item and making that difference. But compared to this one, is just adding that difference to the height of each one of them. So takes a bit more time, gets a bit more complex, but the logic is it's quite easy at the end. That's all for today. I hope you guys had fun, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.